Give Paul Brading a heart attack there, Claire, but thanks anyway.
Sorry.
And shout.
Sorry.
Okay, so as I feels funny not talking into a microphone and really shouting, doesn't it? It seems so odd. Okay, get yourself sorted, Laura. Right, so we are moving. It is 10 a.m, so I will start the meeting of the Appointments and Employment Committee. Many thanks to all of those attending. I know John Medlin, I mean, he did say that he was coming, and he said he was coming in early, but anyway. So item 1, we're correct, yeah. Item 1 on the agenda is apologies and changes in membership. There are none that I'm notified of, so I presume that's all okay. Thank you. Item 1, also to note the changes in membership of the committee made in accordance with Part 4B, 5 of the Constitution. Anything, Jeff? That one from you? No? Okay. Okay, so we move on to item 2, which is to confirm as true record the minutes of the very brief minutes of the meeting held on the 27th. I think it was the quickest meeting I can ever remember, because there was no declarations of interest, there was no public questions, there were no items of urgent business, and there were no members' questions. So is everyone happy that I sign those?
Yep.
Okay, so do we have any declarations of interests?
None.
No. Okay, no declarations of interest. So we move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is public question time. We have received no public questions. So we move on to item 5, which is to consider any matters which, in the chairman's opinion, are urgent. I have none. So we move on to item 6, which is the appointment of directors of children's services. So I know, because I have rang a number of you, you've all read the paper, if not once, twice, 3 times. And so really, I'll go around the table. Jeff, have you got anything that you wanted to raise, please?
Okay, well, we've got 2 recommendations.
Yes.
In paragraph 4 and 5.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned that we're putting the cart before the horse here,
Okay.
because as an elected member who isn't a member of the administration, I have no idea what the intentions are of the administration with regard to children's services in the future. Is it the plan to be returned to the Isle of Wight running the show, or are you looking perhaps for another strategic partnership? Of course, there are other directors of children's services within range. We don't have to work with Hampshire. You know, we could work with, you know, whatever that authority is around Bournemouth called, Bournemouth, Christchurch and whatever it's called, or Southampton and Portsmouth will have directors of children's services. I mean, I don't know if you're exploring that. I mean, you know, I'm very much in the dark here. So I'm not sure whether you should be going down the road of option 1 that's proposed at the moment until all members of this committee, at the very least, know what the direction is likely to be of the administration with regard to children's services. There is nothing to stop us putting in place under option 2 interim arrangements that being arranged. I've no idea what. I've never met the acting area director, Debbie Price, I think, is it? You know,
Yes, yeah.
I've never met her in my life. You know, I wouldn't know who she is. I used to know, you know, Kathy Murray.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, I would have had absolute confidence in many ways, you know, if she was still with us. But I have no idea whether she could step up to the plate. But in the scale of the current situation, she's about a 4th tier officer, isn't she? I think, you know, it's so it'll be quite a step up, really. And that's no disrespect to her at all. She may be.
Oh, she was amazing, I know.
About her.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anybody else who could be brought in, you know, on an interim basis from elsewhere. I mean, I would certainly support option 2.
Yeah.
You know, at an absolute minimum from today. But I remain to be convinced, and I'll listen to what's said here, preferably by yourself, leader, regarding, given that you now have the lead role for children's, for the education side of things, you know, what your plans are for children's services management on the Isle of Wight in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Paul, have you got any comments?
Obviously, Hampshire Partnership was a very strong partnership and it's been going for a number of years. And you're losing the leaders at the top of that partnership, Steve Cocker and Brian. To me, that was an ideal opportunity for us to renegotiate the contract, scale it down a bit. We missed that opportunity. We didn't take that opportunity. We waited till Hampshire dropped us. I think we could have had that conversation with Hampshire a lot earlier regarding renegotiating the contract in a different format. Because what we're now losing is everyone down the education chain. It really, really concerns me. Children's Services on the island is in a good position. Still needs managing and driving forward, so its standards don't slip. Education on the island is not. I've had several calls over the summer from head teachers, and they're concerned about their local learning partners who work in the school on a daily basis. They've all gone from the day before half term and said, are we here in September? Are we redundant in September? The timing, from Hampshire's perspective, was appalling. A lot of these staff gone on summer break, where they got jobs in September. And I know the education results haven't gone up, but the standards in the school, I believe, have gone up. I'm sure Debbie would agree with that. But all these people that work further down the line from the director are now basically being stripped out of the Isle of Wight. It's not a case of putting in place a director. It's the whole educational structure that needs to be replaced. And to me, I mean, as Jeff said, I don't know what's been going on since at all. I'd like to know that.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't support option 1. I'd only support option 2. But the job advert itself, for me, is wrong because there's very little focus on education. It should be primarily education focused. I know it's a statutory role, I get that, but there's very little focus on the educational problems on the island, i.e. no staffing structure. And that has definitely got to be a major part of any job application that goes in. And I think there is, there's room to renegotiate contract with Hampshire still. I believe that still can be done for the parts down the line. I don't think Hampshire's a dead duck. I feel I've been talking to, but equally a partnership with anyone else would be worth exploring, as Jeff has quite rightly said.
Yeah. Okay, I agree. Susie?
Pretty much what they have said.
I know.
I think that I feel that I'm very much in the dark to try to make a decision around option 1, because again, we don't know looking at, we don't know what the future negotiations will come up with from Hampshire. We don't know. We're looking at, so I'm concerned about option 1. I don't think I've got anything to add really to what Jeff said.
And yeah, exactly. Okay.
Not enough information.
Okay, I'll let John just quickly read through the papers there so that
Just to get the options clear in my head, yes, I'm sorry as I'm late.
And that's fine. You carry on, John, a minute. Wendy, do you want to give us a bit of a rundown about where we are and so that we can do a history, really?
Yeah, I suppose the rationale for this paper really is twofold. One, because of the announcement by Hampshire that they need to move to terminate the partnership, we will have to put in, you're right, Jeff, we will have to put interim arrangements in place because we have to have a DCS appointed. Yes. Now, whether that's an interim arrangement for someone to step up or for a third party interim to come in still remains to be discussed, but we do need to have an interim arrangement in place. The second element, if you like, option 1 of the paper was really to say in preparing for whatever option Cabinet discuss and agree at their meeting on the 14th of September, if that option is to go in-house, we've already had the Appointments and Employment Committee, and we've got the draft advert and we've got the job profile agreed, so that as soon as a decision is made by Cabinet, if that decision is to go in-house, we can go out to advert. It's not to say we go out to recruitment today for something where there hasn't been a decision. In terms of the comments around the partnership, I think, it's fair to say there are going to be a range of options for Cabinet to consider. There will be the option of going in-house. There may be a hybrid option, which is in-house with an option to purchase services from elsewhere to kind of boost the staffing levels that we already have. There is an option that we look to and explore partnership arrangements with other authorities. And there are a range of routes we could go in and directions we could look. There are timescales associated with each, and there may be some medium-term options and and moving to longer-term options. And those are the sorts of range of things that will be before Cabinet in their paper. Obviously, it will be for Cabinet to determine which route they want to go. But really, this paper was about preparing for, if the answer is we go in-house, we've got everything already put in place to go out to recruit as soon as possible.
Okay, I'll bring in Paul then, Debbie.
I think Debbie, yeah, he's used the right word, hybrid. When I was talking about Hampshire, there's a place for hybrid with Hampshire, because some of the staff that they've got are employed like Point Somerset on the island and Point Somerset on the mainland. Those staff right the way down below officer level all know the Isle of Wight and its intricacies very well. But I think to have a hybrid lower down with the Hampshire, buying some of the Hampshire services like MASH and stuff like that, be preferable to a new partnership, because they know the Isle of Wight really well. To build relationships with schools is going to take us a while. We need to keep the ball rolling as it's going at the moment. I still believe we're going in the right direction on the island. Results will come right in the end. So a hybrid with Hampshire would be my preferred option. With our own director, fine. But a hybrid with Hampshire as opposed to a brand new partnership, perhaps be a preferable. The hybrid was the right word rather than, we still resurrect the partnership dead with Hampshire. But we could do a hybrid new partnership with Hampshire. People know the island is still working on the island and not losing their jobs.
Sorry, Deb, are you all right if I just bring Judy in?
It's just in answer to that. Claire and myself and Sarah Teague have been having and are having continued conversations with Hampshire, looking at things like MASH and the other things that could be bought into by agreement. So it's not just saying we're stopping all ties with them. I don't know if you wanted to come in there, Claire, but we're having those regular discussions, aren't we?
Yeah, and obviously they're feeding into the information that will be provided to the Cabinet with regards to what option they wish to take in that respect. So those things are being considered and certainly are being presented to Cabinet as part of those considerations.
Thank you, Claire. Claire, can you? I mean, we heard you really well there. Can you hear us perfectly clear?
Really, really well. It's excellent. Thank you.
Oh, finally, yeah, all these years, yeah. Right, Deb, sorry.
That's okay. I mean, that's really helpful, Wendy, and I think it helps to put the recommendations in context. But I'm still unhappy with the way it's worded. So we knew that one of our priorities would have to be to go out to recruit the DCS. As Paul rightly said, it's a statutory post. We cannot be without a DCS. I think in the way that the recommendations are phrased, and I appreciate that it's trying to effectively cover all eventualities, so that if we decide that we do want to bring, well, not necessarily, as Paul said, not necessarily bring everything in house, but have our own DCS. That's what we're sort of considering here, that we don't have to come back to appoint a substantive permanent. But I think perhaps a way around that is to amend the wording of option 1, because option 2, the second recommendation, talks about interim arrangements. I think I've got it.
It does identify
rather than an interim DCS. I think I'm right in saying
it says the committee delegates authority to the chief exec to identify interim arrangements deemed necessary.
So I think, sorry, that it needs to say within option 1. This is the only thing about going paperless.
Right, Deb, take your time. It's absolutely fine, Deb.
There we go. No. I can do this. I can do this. So the committee authorises the commencement of the recruitment process for the appointment of a director of children's services in accordance with the job description and person specification for this role. This appointment may be interim or substantive, or well, however you want to,
I
you
think,
can see, you can.
yeah, I
see-
think
so
you,
If I, yeah,
the difficulty with that, Debbie, is I think that you're moving to one single recommendation, trying to cover two completely separate things. So keeping it separate in my head, we will only need to move to a permanent recruitment if Cabinet determine that the route they want to go is an in-house or an in-house hybrid and an appointment of an Isle of Wight DCS.
can we not just take out the word permanent?
But you need,
Sure.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can I help?
Jeff, yeah,
Can I
get
help?
on,
I mean,
yeah.
I absolutely agree with Wendy. I mean, we don't need a director of children's services if we come to an arrangement
Yeah.
with another authority like we've had with Hampshire.
Yeah.
So
Well, we
what-
do,
so-
but not,
No, we don't.
not our
no.
own.
Well, we don't need to appoint one ourselves, is what I'm saying. So all you need to add to option one is something like subject to a cabinet decision to
Yes.
return in-house.
Yes.
All you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
All you need.
Okay, all right. The other point, I'd just like to pick up on something that,
Yeah.
that Paul said. In terms of the LLPs, it's been made very, very clear by Hampshire that the date for the for the finalisation of the termination of the partnership is the 31st of January. So to say,
Request,
well,
you have to agree to that as a Cabinet.
yes, but to say that there's uncertainty over the summer holidays as to whether staff will be coming back in September. I'm not aware, nobody has come to me and said,
Not what the LLP, with all due respect, the LLPs weren't told. All they heard through the grapevine was that they read it on social media on the island. Hampshire's pulled the contract. The LLPs hadn't been spoken to by Hampshire. They were going to head teachers in the schools they were in that day saying, what's happening to us? Are we employed? Their teacher were ringing me up saying, what else happened to our LLPs come September? Don't ask me. They hadn't been told anything by Hampshire at all. They were unaware of the announcement at all.
and in
But
terms of
Support
you,
from Hampshire, and there's nothing to do with that, it's nothing to fault
Yeah.
from us, it's Hampshire.
okay, and in terms of you picking up about education, it's been made very, very clear, certainly to me as the lead member, by several professionals that yes, the DCS is responsible for the whole oversight of both the children's services side, the education side, and not forgetting the adult learning. But it's absolutely imperative that that DCS has a background in children's services. But I also hear what you're saying, Paul, about, yes, I agree that the upper tier of management within education sits within Hampshire, although I'd like to make the point that they are, well, while the partnership still exists, they are Isle of Wight when they're working for the Isle of Wight. I don't think it's right to say that we don't have any education, because we do have some extremely good officers that are actually on the island working in education. But of course, that would all be part of wider conversation as to how we move forward, whether how we actually restructure, and it gives us a good opportunity. In terms of the hybrid, just to reassure you, that's something that we have already considered. And Wendy, we had a conversation about Hampshire are actually preparing, it was described as a shopping list that we can actually, because obviously nobody so far has mentioned the elephant in the room, which is finance, which we have to obviously consider not only what will secure our position in children's services, what will improve our situation in education, but also what will actually work for us as an authority financially. I think that's all I've got to add.
Okay. I think that's quite a lot, Deb. Okay. Is there anyone else that's got any comments that they wish to make? Okay, so Jeff helpfully, on option 1, has come up with the wording that the committee authorises the commencement of the recruitment process for the appointment of a permanent director of children's services in accordance with job description and person specification for this role, subject to cabinet
Decision.
To return to an in-house model.
Right, okay.
Because all you're seeking is
Permission.
pre-permission.
Yes.
Save having to
That's
get us
exactly
together again
Exactly.
for the next cabinet meeting. That's all you're doing.
It's exactly, yeah. And I have to say, I do have to publicly thank Claire, Judy and Wendy, who literally have, you know, since this notification, jumped on it straight away. We can't, you know, we're already 1 month down. We've got 5 months left to go. It's not an easy, there's not that many Director of Children's Services. And straight away they were on it and they were preparing and they were thinking and they were going, you know, with everything else that's going on, I think they've done an absolutely superb job to put together such a comprehensive paper, bearing in mind the thing. Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on briefly on the subject that Debbie did raise, which is the financial side, which I was going to raise as well,
Yeah.
because you know that obviously that will be part of your consideration at
Well.
cabinet, because I've no idea how much we pay Hampshire at the moment, you know, for our share of their director of children's services. But I would imagine to employ one directly is going to cost you at least 3 times that. Would that be a fair estimate, Wendy?
We've done some benchmarking
Yeah.
around DCSs. Our current
Yeah, well,
structure
I've got a
would
rough
be on
idea.
the lower end. Some of
But I know how much a director of children's service is going to cost you, you know,
Yeah.
it's, you know, and I've got a rough idea of what we pay Hampshire, you know, for
Yeah.
Steve Crocker,
Yeah.
you know, which,
Stuart Ashley now.
well, yeah, sorry, Stuart Ashley, yeah, I need to keep on a date, don't I? But, you know, so, you know, I mean, it is going to be a large chunk of money when the authority is facing yet another
There's another.
dreadful budget year.
Yeah.
Which is why a strategic partnership may be your best option. And of course, the problem with children's services itself is it's a hybrid role in itself.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's education, it's also children's safeguarding issues, children's social services,
Yep.
which personally, I've never felt it really sits well together at all, to be honest. And I think that has made it very difficult to have an effective director of children's services, to be honest. I know there's some wonderful people out there
Yeah.
doing it, but they're generally education
They're
specialists.
either in one
To be
camp.
honest,
or the other,
you know,
yeah.
in my experience, from what I've seen, they're generally education specialists. Whereas, you know, and you know, let's face it, back in 2013, when the administration, when the council was put into special measures and the government instructed that Hampshire took us over.
They did, yes.
They did it firstly for educational reasons, but then they did it for the children's social services side of it as well. You know, we were that bad on both sides. The David Pugh administration, I can never ever avoid mentioning him, can I? You know, and it's at some point in the meeting. There we go. So just for the historic background.
Right, Deb and then Paul. Debbie will come in.
Yeah, I think in terms of there is crossover between children's services and education, and the big one is special educational needs, where the two cross over, and there are other areas where it crosses over. So I think to say that it doesn't cross over, I think it does. Also, if you read the government guidance on the whole sort of directorate, it actually states very clearly that you have a DCS that has to have oversight of children's services and education, and also a lead member of children's services that works alongside as the political lead that also has the strategic overview. So it is within the government guidance. Another point I'd like to raise from this is Appendix 2 on the timeline, which I think is good, if not slightly ambitious, but it's where we need to be. But again, I think the elephant is in the room is what's plan B if we don't get any applications? Oh,
I have a proposed plan B, which isn't ideal, again, because of the finances, but we have looked at Matrix, as you know, are our framework provider.
Yeah.
If we were to go out, we could press the button to go live at any point from now. If we were to look at getting somebody for example, a 3 months contract, because you wouldn't want somebody just for a week.
No.
You're looking at a cost of between £850 and £1,000 a day, but it is doable.
Wendy?
I think you're absolutely right to raise the issue of a plan B, Debbie, but I also think we need to approach this from a plan A approach, which is really robust and
Yeah.
and you know, as effective as we can make it in terms of going to recruit, if that's what you decide to do as a cabinet.
can I just have a
Well, I would just say, if you recall when we were going out for chief, oh, we're never going to get anyone. There's no one out there. No one's going to apply. We had some really good candidates for the chief execs. Yeah, for the chief execs position. I have to say, we really did. So for all those doubting Thomases that nobody comes here to the Isle of Wight, blah blah. Actually, we had some, didn't we, Paul? I mean, you were on that meeting.
Very good, yeah.
There were some very good people. I mean, quite surprising. Really the quality of the people. So I do think people doubt us a bit too much, and I just think, you know, we should be more positive.
Judy's probably
Judy,
going to say
yeah.
what
I agree, and I
Yeah.
think until we go out to advert, we don't know who's going to apply.
No.
So if you don't go out, you're never going to know.
No, I appreciate that. But the other point that it raises in the paper is that, and I get this, and again, because of finance, we're not going to a recruitment agency, but we are doing it in-house. And that's not, please don't think this is any sort of slur on in-house, but obviously that's another factor in this, that we are doing the recruitment process in-house. You mentioned Matrix.
So there are provide a framework where we draw people in through them
Right.
as an agency. So they can be looking at other agencies from across the board. And it means, for example, we pay no introduction fee. If somebody's here for more than 12 weeks, we pay no introduction fee. Whereas if you go through a normal agency, you would have a massive introduction fee if you were to make somebody permanent. So there are advantages, and we save a lot of agency costs by
I'm
using
not saying we shouldn't, but I'm just thinking of the potential impact on the spread of.
It's worst case scenario, Deb, that is, you know, I think.
And I would
That
say
wasn't what we're doing.
I
That
mean,
was-
no, it's not. That's the-
it's an
Yeah.
approach.
Oh, okay.
Really, it's like,
We use our networks as
Yeah.
well to share that information. So
yeah,
I
You're
would
confident.
suggest we
Yeah.
may actually share it more widely through the approach that we're taking than we would do through an agency.
That's fine. That's
and
what
I
I
would
want
say,
to hear.
we, you know, we went in-house with the chief execs because I can't remember, was you on that one, Susie, when we did, because I can't remember how much money, if we'd gone external, it was a huge sum of money, and we decided to do it internally. And we had, and you know, and everyone, oh, you're not going to get the PPE, but actually we did. We proved, you know, it proved everybody wrong. It really did work out very well. So, you know, so, okay, is there anything else, Paul?
I think all Director of Children's Services will have had some sort of direction of travel to get to those roles.
Yeah.
Some would have come in through the education route, some would have come in.
Yes.
So Steve Crocker was probably one of the best DCSs in the country. He's
Yes.
chaired the National Board. His route into that was through Children's
Children,
Services. That was his strength.
Yeah.
He knew a lot about education, but obviously had Brian Pope working with him.
Yeah.
She relied upon the education side of things. So I think we're going to, when we get applying, they're going to come in through a certain direction.
Yes.
I just think the job description is heavily weighted towards the children's services side of things and will attract possibly those type of that route in. And the job description needs a better balance
Okay.
on the educational side of things.
Yep.
So I personally
Yep.
would not vote for option 1
Right.
because it says about a permanent director of children's services in accordance with the job description. I
Okay.
prefer option 2, giving more flexibility to Wendy to put her team together. Subject to cabinet, subject, I would amend option 2.
Oh,
that
oh, oh.
The preferred route will be determined by cabinet. I think
Right.
you need to have that flexibility at the moment to go forward with, you know, our chief executive leading it, interim arrangements if necessary, direction of travel to be deemed by cabinet.
Okay, I'll let Jeff think about that one for a minute. Susie? Yeah,
I think
Like this.
I agree with what Paul's saying, but I understand the need to get, potentially to go
Yeah.
with option one in the way that it's been refaced by Jeff. I'm happy with that. I do share Paul's concerns around the job advert. And
Okay.
so if we're going to approve it today, do we not? I don't think we can.
yeah.
do it with that
Wendy
job
has
advert.
just agreed to beef up on the education side.
Revise the job specification, the job role and specification to add in links to education. We can circulate that to you virtually for agreement. So your option one would be not necessarily with the job description as part of this paper, but with the and any amendments required by employment and appointments committee.
Mhm.
And we can
Probably
do
be
that outside of this full meeting.
Okay, Deb?
Just a note on that. My only concern is that the more prescriptive we make this, the narrower the field.
Get the right person.
Might not get anybody.
To briefly consider what we'd like to see in it then.
Paul, have you had any thoughts on
Right.
where you think on that job description you want to put in anything more
gotta
about
be place
education? Place planning.
It has to be place planning has got to go in there because that's a massive problem on the item you're
Yeah.
not addressing. So place planning has got to go in there. Driving at educational standards has got to go in there. Just to give more times education is mentioned in the job description. What it says is actually relevant in respect. If education is mentioned more often, the word education only appears twice.
Mm.
It appears more often, they'll think education is mentioned a lot. I need to understand education. I need to, in my preparation of my speech, lead on education. What you actually ask is less relevant than the word education appearing more often. This is a prick to anyone looking at the job
Yeah.
description that education, oh yeah.
Yeah,
education.
that can easily be done. So we will do that. We will circulate that agreement via
Yeah.
email so that everybody is happy with that. As I said to you last night, I've already suggested to Wendy and to Judy that when they come in and give their presentation, whoever it might be, place planning might be the ideal, and education standards should be, I've already requested, should be, that will be the biggest thing that I will be certainly looking for.
It'd be my
if I'm
question.
still
First
here.
question would be, what are you going to do about the place planning on the island?
Exactly, yeah.
I've just got to emphasise, obviously it's going to be one of the key,
Yeah.
if not the key, priority for this person coming in. I mean, it's absolutely, it's going to be a massive responsibility. It's going to take up a huge amount of time, I imagine.
That's not the advice that we've received. And education is actually mentioned with them twice, but
It's sort of twice.
Anyway, okay, so we're the job description thing we will bring back. That will be circulated to all of those in this room now, so that we can beef up on the education side. So could I please be very clear on which option on the recommendation with the amendment we are taking? So, because I know Paul said he would prefer to do option 2. I know Jeff has said
As well.
and take both.
That we brought on both together.
Right,
That's
with
what you
the
need.
with the amendments, Jeff?
The amendment.
Right, okay.
put in.
Okay, so could you please, for the clarity, Jeff, give me option 1 with your recommendation?
Well,
and then
I mean, I propose that the committee agrees to option 1 and option 2,
Yeah,
with option 1 as amended, the wording I gave earlier,
which was subject to
subject to a
Cabinet.
cabinet decision to return to in-house.
in-house.
Yeah.
Okay, right, you got that? Right, fine. Paul, what was your amendment? I'll bring you in, John, in a sec.
So there was a second amendment, wasn't there?
Yeah, so the second amendment, Paul, what was yours?
Are you saying we go on option 1 and option 2 or just one
Yes.
option?
no, as a block.
Both.
Both.
You need
So
to
that
do
you
both
have,
things.
you have an interim option.
Yeah.
But you also have, should cabinet decide to go with a partnership arrangement, which looks to in-house, you already have a decision to go out to recruit.
Option 2, I was just going to put at the end, the preferred route will be determined by cabinet.
Okay,
Or preferred direction, preferred route, whatever,
right, okay.
be determined by cabinet.
On option two.
on option 2.
Okay.
That will cover the hybrid, the new partnership,
Yep.
in-house, it'll cover all those interims. All those arrangements will be covered under option 2.
Jeff, you okay with that amendment?
I'm not sure it's necessary. To be honest. Delegates the authority of the chief executive. You're immediately then taking away the authority from the chief executive by having that
Tend to
in.
agree.
Leave it
You
off.
either give it to the cabinet or you give it to the
Quite
chief.
happy to remove that.
Leave it off, yeah.
Remove that.
Yeah.
Scrub that one.
That's fine.
No, that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
because
Well, you either
it's
give it
not
to the
here
chief
to
executive
just-
or you don't.
Absolutely.
It's,
Absolutely. Right. John, sorry, you wanted to check something on amendment?
No, that was it. That was it.
That was, oh, right.
Take
okay.
it off, yeah.
Are we all happy then with that wording now that we've changed the option 1 just slightly and agree option 2? Everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, could you just show of hands or whatever? Yep, so that's unanimous that that is done. And hang on, I'm just going to just check, right, okay, go back to the agenda before. So that's it. We've made that decision. We've had a good discussion.
Question.
And can I, so once, I just want to, before we do that, we've agreed unanimously with those amendments. Again, I want to thank Judy, Wendy and Claire, who have worked, all over the break, the break to put this together. So I'm indebted to them for, and also just getting on it so quickly. We couldn't really let much more time go. We're down to 5 months now. The clock's ticking. So thank you. Who wanted to come in? Jeff and then Paul.
Yeah, I just want to raise issue regarding the membership.
Oh, yes.
If you do go forward with
Yeah.
people applying for the job, etc.
Yeah.
As a result of the by-election last week
Yeah.
and the spells and machinations of the monitoring officer, the unaligned members of this council, myself and Councillor Quigley, will no longer have a place on this committee
Okay.
from full council.
Okay.
Instead, you'll get a Liberal Democrat. Okay. What I had planned to do with the agreement of Councillor Quigley until the by-election was to substitute Richard for me,
Yeah.
because he is the chair of the
Children.
Policy and Scrutiny Committee for Children's Services. I believe it is imperative that he's involved in
Yeah.
this process. And therefore, I would recommend to this committee that you recommend to full council this month that Councillor Quigley is co-opted onto this committee with a full role for this appointment should it go ahead. That will require unanimity on the vote at full council. Any vote against will mean he won't. Hopefully there would be cross-group, cross-party, whatever agreement that the chair of that committee should be part and parcel of this process.
Thank you, Jeff.
I would ask you to do.
Okay. Thank you.
So I think the time frame appendix 2, I agree it's quite tight, but we're gonna stick to these weeks of 30th of October for shortlisting and the 6th of November for interviews. We're gonna stick to those timeframes.
It is tight, it is ambitious, it is our indicative timetable.
Therefore, can I ask we avoid Monday the 30th of October? Because any day those 2 weeks I can't make, Monday the 30th of October. So it's worth checking our availability
Exactly.
for those weeks as and when we need to go forward, because it is tight, but if it's doable, it's doable.
Okay. So is there anything else under members' question time
We have agreement with what I suggested.
about Richard Quigley? Well, I don't think Susie's got any issue with it, and I don't have any issue with it at all. So I
Probably need to formally do that.
do it through Potter.
Yeah, you'll need to get the monitoring
full
officer to
council.
sort that out.
We've got a note of that.
Got a note of that.
Idea.
Okay.
Could it be done as the political proportionality one?
There's a proportionality paper that
There's
comes
There is.
through.
Yeah.
Separate.
Will
Yeah.
conform with what Mr. Potter requires. I'd rather you didn't get involved.
Yeah, yeah. If you've sorted it with Potter, Jeff, I'm good with that. Okay.
Claire, would you try and
Okay,
simplify?
yeah, right, okay, so,
Not any complications.
yeah, if there are any further members' questions, no? Okay, so then,
You've
I
lost
call
2
this
hours of your life
meeting
already.
to an end. So, thank you all very much for your time
Thank you, Lynn.
and your information and your hard work in this. Thank you all very much. Hopefully that's clear and it gives you a steer to go forward, Wendy and Judy and Claire. Okay, thanks very much. I'm so glad these microphones work.
Yeah, it's really, really good. It's excellent.
Is it?
Really good.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, really pleased with that.
I thought your paper was very, very good.
It's just such a relief, isn't it, when it works?
Yeah, the only thing I'll say though